The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Helena. Helena's going to tell us where and where she was born. She's going to describe to us what it was like where she grew up, the school she went to, and the education that she received. Oh, get my teeth in. So, Helena, you're in the room. Welcome.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to meet you and to be on your show.
Thank you for coming on. So, let's have a look. When and where were you born?
Well, I
don't
was...
have to give the exact age away because you're a lady, but...
Dare we share our age, right? Well, I was born in June. That's all I can say. I'd like to say. So I'm a June summer girl in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I was born to a couple that their parents, my grandparents, brought them to Canada just before the wars started in Lebanon. And so they moved from their country and moved to a different country altogether with different beliefs and systems in place, and they adapted to everything, and they opened up their restaurants, and so that's the industry I grew up in. But that's my hometown, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
Right, okay. So where did they come from?
Their heritage is from Lebanon. And what's interesting is that even though I was born and raised in Canada, I come from a huge family. I mean, both sides. My mom's side has 9 kids. My father's side has 9 kids. So I have, aunts and uncles and of course, a lot of cousins. So the tradition or the culture was taught to us. My grandparents always talked about Lebanon. One thing my father would always mention is the mountains in Lebanon. He would constantly, and in many ways, my heart felt bad for them because it was like their life was still there, but they were in Canada. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so they, always raved about the mountains in Lebanon and how there are many churches in the mountains of Lebanon. And when I saw photos of that, it really, I thought, wow, it would be so exciting to go and just do that sort of tour and visit all those places and feel that vibration of Jesus and the history of behind all that, right? Jerusalem and Jericho, all those amazing places that have outstanding history to them. And I learned about that through my parents, through my grandparents, and it's so rich. And it's so sad, though, that I have never had an opportunity to visit that.
Never say never.
Just to learn that enrichment of.
So a little question then. When you were growing up, were you bilingual? Did you use...
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Because you've got such a big family.
Yes. It was a huge part of my parents' wishes for us to learn the language. Now, Arabic, which is the language throughout that area of the world, it's not an easy language to learn.
What's not easy about it? Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, yes. Alaikum salam, or, marhaba,
Right.
kifun, right? The more,
Alhamdulillah. Oh, I can speak a bit of
the
Arabic.
more, the more easy, straightforward, introductions, even some of the,
Yeah.
gotta say it, I think every individual learns some bad word in a certain language, right? Uh, so the thing
Not me.
is that the Arabic alphabet has what, 27 letters or
Mm-hmm.
28?
Thereabouts.
And so I can say Aleph, Bet, Tet, Je, He, but then putting those letters together and then learning, just if one dot is in a different place, it changes the enunciation of that letter as well as in the sentence when you're speaking the language. Um,
If
my
you
sister
think
was really good
if
at
you
learning the language, but for me, it was, oh gosh, I don't want to do that. Not that I'm
uh,
lazy or anything. I found it difficult to be going back and forth because you're in school all day. We're
yeah,
kids, we're in school all day, we're speaking English, we're, interacting with our friends, not speaking Arabic with each other, we're speaking English with each other. So that we'd get home and my father would immediately point out, you guys got to learn your second language, right? Because English is our
yeah,
first language. And then, of course, Arabic to us was our second. Um, was it pure mere laziness? No, I just think the fact is we were in school all day long and that's what we were used to speaking, English.
yeah. So it may have been better for your parents to speak Arabic at home,
They did.
and then they did, and
Oh
you
yeah,
hadn't
we
got a
would.
clue what they was on about.
Oh yeah. uh, yeah, they spoke to us in Arabic and then we would reply in English. And that's why my dad would say, well, you have to reply to me in Arabic. And it's like, well, to carry on a conversation with you in Arabic after being in school all day speaking English, I don't know half the words in Arabic.
Mm,
So, and I know it's a process. You should take the initiative to learn it,
yeah,
absolutely. Um, but I think for us, it was just that fact that we're in school all day. The funny thing is, because they owned restaurants, they worked long hours. I'd say maybe 75% of the time, my father would pick us up from school and drive us to my grandparents. So we spent a lot of time with our grandparents. Excuse me, primarily with my mom's side because they lived in close proximity. And so when we went to grandma and grandpa's, it was, or Sito or Jinto's place, excuse me, I found it much easier to converse in Arabic with my grandparents. And I don't
mm,
know, maybe because I wasn't so nervous, I don't know, but my grandmother would always correct us to say the correct way of announcing the word in Arabic. Um, and it wasn't this, no, you should be saying it this way or that way. And it's unfortunate that outside of that circle, anyone knew that my parents would introduce us to that was Lebanese, uh, they would ask. It would always be a direct question. Do you speak Arabic? And I would always wonder, why do they keep asking that? But it's right. It's like, do I need to be speaking Arabic? So there's that stigma, or not stigma. It's almost like a requirement, but
mm,
in reality, I understand. Right? I
yeah,
understand. Of course, why not? It's great to learn a second language. It's great to converse in your second tongue, per se. but it's not an easy language to learn. It really isn't.
No.
A lot of it is marhaba and kifi
No.
and
Ah,
you know,
yeah, that's right.
and
Yeah.
it's a very expressive language, like a
Mm,
use of the hands, like marhaba kifi. It's very joyful, and it's beautiful. It is a beautiful language, but it's not an easy language
mm.
to learn.
And the thing with Arabic, because it's spoke across so many countries across sort of Africa into
Yes.
into sort of the Middle East,
Mhm.
the dialect tends to be quite different from one end of the from Egyptian
That's
or from Moroccan to
absolutely
Lebanese to Saudi Arabia. So
yes,
that adds the complication into it. And then if you
yeah.
really, really want to challenge yourself, try working in Pashto. Now
Well,
they they have so many more characters and so many more dots to worry about. And because
yes.
one time I was say working in Afghanistan and working with interpreters all the time, and we were putting out some print stuff. So trying to work out what it was saying in Pashto is a nightmare,
Mm, mhm.
especially if
Well,
it's grammar.
I had my very first opportunity in 2000, the year 2000, to go to Kuwait to set up
Oh,
a huge all women's fitness facility in Kuwait. I don't know if you've ever gone there, but it was so exciting because even though that area of the world is it's all interconnected, but
yeah,
the cultures could be different too. Like Lebanese are different in terms of how they interact with each other and the way we have so much fun with parties and you know uh,
yeah.
Lebanese food and depki and belly dancing. So to me, when I had that opportunity to fly to Kuwait, I thought this is in some way a good way to sort of feel that heritage. Although it's
Mm,
different, it's still in
yeah,
that area of the world, right? So when I got there, it's interesting because they speak more Farsi, which is the very old uh, for
yeah.
dialect in the Arab world. So I thought, okay, there's speaking, but I'm gonna try to understand because I do understand when my parents would, in family
Yeah.
gatherings, I understood what everybody was talking about. I would just reply in English, right? So, excuse me, in Kuwait, I would have to listen intently. And sometimes it just took one word that I can understand that would make me understand what they were talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so they would be surprised. How did you understand? We're speaking it in a different dialect. I'm like, well, you said that one word that I was familiar with growing up. So
Yeah.
excuse me. It's I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in that
Mm,
area of the world, and it's a different culture altogether, but it's a
yeah.
rich culture.
Well, I used to come down from Iraq down to Kuwait about once a fortnight
Wow.
when I was there,
Mhm, mhm,
because we were getting our printing works done
mhm,
in Kuwait rather than in Iraq. So I
mm.
was there in 2004, I think it was.
Oh,
Um,
nice. And it's a
no,
very
yeah,
open culture. It's
yeah,
the Kuwaitis really give foreigners an opportunity. It,
mm,
it was a very huge opportunity for me. I truly enjoyed and I was spoiled. That's the one thing I when I arrived there, I was like, wow, I have a driver, and, and they took me everywhere. And, Starbucks is quite popular there. I remember I arrived, and then the next morning I was picked up by one of the sisters there, and right away took me to Starbucks. And I think we were there most of the day. And I was thinking, wow, this is, and I mentioned it to her. I said, sister, I'm supposed to be working for you, and we're spending the whole day at Starbucks, and you're paying me. And she's, oh, don't worry. And I'm thinking, wow, we in North America don't think this way.
Different attitude altogether.
I was like, wow, don't worry about it. Okay, well, and I come with I follow very strong high standards. And I explained it to her. I said, I appreciate that you are taking me to Starbucks and we're spending the whole day there. I said, but in all reality, I'd really love to see all the competition in Kuwait. And we know Kuwait's not a huge
Not a big
city.
place.
So she was.
Anyway, we have strayed so far off the subject.
Right. I'm sorry. I just thought I'd
maybe
bring that
get
up.
to Kuwait a
It
little
was my
bit
first
later.
time in the Middle East, so
Yeah.
go on. Let's get back on track.
Let's drag you way, way, way back now. So schooling. So you're schooling. Let's have a look at your junior school. See what you were doing in junior school when you come up from the kindergarten. Can you remember that far back?
Oh yeah, my goodness. So you want me to talk about junior high, grades 7 and 8?
No, before that.
Oh, from grades kindergarten up to
Yeah,
grade.
elementary school. When they call it elementary.
Well,
So what was your elementary school like?
Lucky for us, the school was just down the street from where we lived. So my sisters and I would walk to school every morning. It was a great school to go to. Teachers were wonderful. I enjoyed playing a lot of sport throughout grade school. So I played baseball, I played volleyball, dodgeball, soccer. I was quite active. I'm the eldest of back then, the three daughters. So what more can I say about grade school? I had some great teachers. Schooling in Ottawa, because it is the nation's capital of Canada, they have somewhat more of a higher standard in terms of learning. As well as back then, being active was very important. So we participated in a program which was implemented throughout Ontario called Participation. So phys ed was very important. We had phys ed every day. And I guess that's where it comes from, me being motivated to participate in, outdoor sports or anything outside of the regular school hours, per se.
So you quite enjoyed elementary school then?
I did.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
Did that then carry on into high school?
High school, I went to when I finished from elementary, I went to junior high, J.H. Putnam, and for grades 7 and 8. And then from there, my 2 years was high, you go into high school. I went outside of our zone, which was west end Ottawa. I went into the center town of Ottawa, only because one of my cousins, come to Commerce High School, which is more of a business related school. So you learn a lot more business. So I did a couple of years there. and I decided to go back into our school zone. So I went to Woodruff High School, which was a much better school to be in, for the reason that it had a better curriculum, and I was on the track team. I also, in grade 13, because my main goal in life was to become a criminal lawyer. That's all I thought. That's all I wanted to be, was a criminal lawyer. So in grade 13, I didn't want to spend the whole year, or sorry, the whole day in school. So I was requesting to be put in the courthouse to gain work experience to earn credit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I was put in the criminal division. And I navigated through the system, learned more about our laws in Canada, as well as, the roles of the judges, and you see the police officers, what their role is in the system as well. And of course, I sat in my first court case.
Yeah. Did that get you hooked, or just make you want to not be a criminal?
I decided not to be a criminal lawyer because it was a murder case. And when you're a young individual, I gotta admit, I grew up in a beautiful family. I grew up in a family that provided so much love, because extended family was always around us.
Yeah.
My parents always provided for us. We were never without. And the career that I chose is almost, well, it is the opposite of that. It's the opposite of, it's the human race at its worst. And so when
Yeah.
you're sitting in a murder case and they bring out the evidence and they bring out the photos, and then you hear the story of how that all transpired, I just thought, I cannot do this. This is not who I am built. Like, I'm not built this way. So
how old were you when you experienced that?
I was 18.
Mm.
So I sat there. I said,
So I guess that was a fairly traumatic experience, if that's the first time you've seen anything like that.
Exactly. Traumatizing. I think what was most traumatizing about that was listening to the story, sitting in on the court case and just observing and hearing why this had happened. And it was like a jolt to the system, to my psyche, going, wow, unreal that this is all because of this one situation, a love triangle, right? So it was like, that's why I said
So
I
it was
was
a bit of a crime of passion, was it?
Yeah, crime and passion. So at that point, I just thought, I was lost, because I thought this is all I ever focused on. So, but then at the time, I was on the track team, and as well, I had a part-time job after school. I worked at a gym. I was teaching classes. I was already on my career path. Right? So it's like divinely guided. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm already doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And Tim, my career grew from there. It just flourished. It just grew. It's beautiful. And now I'm still in it. I'm doing what I love. I'm helping humanity in a different way, and that is to be healthy and strong. and motivated. Be optimistic. Be happy, right?
So you got put off of being a criminal lawyer then by your first case, watching your first case. So at 18 then, you're probably coming up to graduating your high school. Where did you go after high school? If you were kind of working down a gym and stuff like that, what
Well, I
was your next
bounced
move? Did you go to
around.
university?
I bounced around through courses at Ottawa U because I was still in that zone of what do I, where do I go? So you take criminal law and you sort of circle around it and you go, okay, well, maybe I'll do criminology or this and that, right? I took courses in economics, and then I met a fella. I got married young. And so when I got married, it was, okay, now back to serious, I got to do, work. And so I managed a gym, Body Moves. And from that, it was an opportunity to grow as a manager. I got all of a sudden featured on radio and television. And so the career grew from that. It wasn't until later that with this industry, it's an industry, and things are starting to change more so in Canada in terms of certification, protecting the consumer from individuals that say they're certified but they're not certified. So the industry has taken hits in that respect. I decided shortly after my marriage ended, I moved out west to British Columbia, Canada. And that's where I took 3 years of kinesiology and sort of put that education in place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You need to have an educational background in whatever you decide to do.
Yeah.
It's so important because especially now, back then we didn't have the internet, right? So anybody can get on the internet, read the information, and then do a post just from that information, and then say, I claim to be a certified fitness professional. Anybody can do that. And there's nowhere to confirm anything about the individual. That's the sad part. So,
so bring us along then. So you're 3 years in BC on the course.
Oh no, I moved to BC. I left Ottawa to be in British Columbia to get away from the snow.
You're not a skier then?
No, I prefer snowshoeing.
So what did you do in BC? So you went to college there, is that right?
Yeah.
So what did you do at the end of your college course?
So 3 years of kinesiology, and then I actually did that. My mind is not mathematical. Okay, so I'm more of the artistic athletic. So that last year of kinesiology, a lot of it is mathematical. You're calculating letters and numbers. And in my mind, I'm like, how does this equal that? How does a letter equal a number and vice versa? So my last year I decided to do applied nutrition, both science as well as holistic. So I did 1 year of the scientific-based nutrition, but then I geared towards Alive Academy in British Columbia. Actually, they have schools all over North America. And I went that route because it made sense to me. So I achieved a diploma with that. And I just continued to work in my industry throughout British Columbia. I taught with one of the most major chains in British Columbia. I also did some work with the Royal Bank in BC, and it flourished there as well. I became a fitness columnist for Canadian Health Style magazine. It was a magazine that was put together by Dr. Mosher, who's a plastic surgeon in Langley, British Columbia. So I was invited to be one of the columnists with that. And good thing with that was that they created a show out of it. So we were on CFUN 1410 every Sunday. People can call in and ask us questions, all the writers. And I don't know, it keeps growing. And now I'm in Blaine, Washington. I'm married to an American. The Gemini flutters.
Yes. So what was the actual thing that you're teaching people to do?
Well, for the past 39 years, Tim, I've trained over 1,000 individuals, maybe more, because 39 years, that's a long time. I've worked with the Bank of Canada. I've co-managed the gym there, teaching business professionals to adapt. Now let's think of corporate heads. They're focused on that big buck, right? They need to make the money. They got to keep that flow, which is every business does need to keep that. But certain individuals are so honed into that they put their health and wellness on the back burner. And so I come in and teach them how to take time away from that, from that train of thought, that mindset, money, money, money. Guess what? Yes, we need money. We need it to survive, pay our bills, all that lovely stuff. But in the end, when it's time to say goodbye,
You can't take it with you.
You're not taking it with you. Okay, so enjoy life to its fullest. Now, for these 2 years, the mindset has shifted in so many ways that, as a professional, it's a different, there's fear, there's anger, there's confusion. And what do we believe, right? So what I'm doing now is saying, maintain your health. Keep moving your body, even if it means step away from the screen for half an hour. Go for a brisk walk. Start investing on in a simple thing like bands or weights, and just move your body, because let's face reality, everybody's going virtual, right?
Yeah. Even me, look.
Everybody's gone virtual. Corporations have, okay, you're working from home now. I cannot count how many times I call, for whatever reason I need to call about my cell phone or my cable, right? You're calling someone, a customer service rep, who's seated at their home in front of their screen. So it's a different way now, and people need to be aware of how to maintain their health with what they've been thrown into, if that makes sense.
Now, do you see in your industry, I don't know whether it's like in Canada, but certainly over here, you get Christmas out of the way, you come to New Year, people have made that New Year's resolution, go and get their gym membership in January, and by Easter, it's fallen by the wayside and they're still back for the gym membership. Does that happen in Canada? How many people actually carry it on throughout the year when they're paying the gym membership?
Well, I can honestly say from the time I started in the industry in 1983, back then, it was a craze. Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody was packing into the gyms. I can honestly say that my classes at Catherine's Lady Fitness were packed. I had over 50 women in my class. It was a huge size classroom, and that was packed. And it didn't matter what age category you fell into, people were into getting to the gym, bouncing around. I taught high impact classes, low impact, aquafit. So there was a different mindset back then. And it's because it was a craze. Now, what's happened over the years, it's changed. The industry has changed in many ways, like with the addition of different equipment into the classes, different types of classes. Now we do spin classes, step classes, right? Which I've taught those classes. Today, people, again, a different mindset. And this is why we need to remember to move your body. Movement is required to remain healthy. I don't know. Do you work out? Are you a gym guy?
well, this my
You look
body's a temple.
you look very fit.
Uh, I was very fit. Underneath this gorgeous exterior, there's an absolute train wreck going on at the moment. But yeah, I try to get up and have a wander around every day.
Oh, you need to.
Sometimes I mean I find it difficult just moving. So, but
Right.
I'm kind of riddled with rheumatoid arthritis and
Okay.
osteoarthritis. So
Right.
it's managing the
So
pain and just fighting through it. But
yeah, it's
40,
not
44
easy.
years in the army has
Right.
taught me to just get on with it, stop dripping and get on with it. So
It
I do.
and I admire you for service. Being in service for your country. That's beautiful.
I had a great
What I
time.
would recommend, and a lot of people, and as we get older, these little things happen. It's all about wear and tear,
Yeah,
and the nutrition has changed. Our food chain has changed over the years. One thing I can admire about England is, and because that's where you're situated, is that Prince Charles promotes organic.
yeah,
I mean, that's admirable, knowing that someone of that status wants that and believes in it. Now, if we
yeah.
had more people like
I
that,
think the downside with organic, particularly in this country, is it all the organic produce tends to be a little bit more expensive than
that's right.
the cheap stuff. I mean, I'm
Yes,
fine. I mean, my wife um, cooks everything from scratch. We don't
same
generally
here.
have anything,
Right.
so it's all freshly prepared. She'll go
Yes.
out. I mean, she's a bargain hunter. She'll go and buy the vegetables that are sort of coming to their sell by date and having
Hmm.
them away. And we'll have that. So she's frugal, but everything is fresh. And yeah, this temple of mine
Yeah.
is showing the benefits.
I think what I love to, no, I don't think, I know this is what I love to promote, is going back to the roots, supporting local farmers.
Yep.
In British Columbia alone, just outside of Langley, British Columbia, you go in the back roads of Langley, there are so many farmers that put out honesty stands, and you can
Yeah.
buy, as long as you're honest, put some money in in their jar,
Yeah.
and you can pick up some fresh peppers or apples or berries, take that route as well. I'm certain, just from the images I've seen of England, the beautiful greenery, I'm sure there's a lot of good farms there. So,
Yeah,
look
absolutely. I mean, there's farmers markets come into town once a week. The various towns around, there's always a market on, or some sort of farmers market where they're selling
Mhm.
fresh produce. And yeah,
Yes.
she definitely takes advantage of all of that, and I
Oh,
benefit from it.
absolutely. And if you have a good sized backyard, why not plant a little garden? That's what I grew up with too. That's one thing my mom and her beautiful garden, and my grandparents, my grandfather on my father's side had a huge garden. So there's ways of ingesting healthy food without that heavy cost, and I agree with you. And I don't agree with the fact that organic is overly priced the way it is,
Mm.
especially now. It's almost like tripled. It's not,
When it,
it is what
when
it is.
if you put it into sort of context, organic should be cheaper because they're not having to put
Absolutely.
all the the pesticides and all the rest
Absolutely.
on it.
Exactly.
So,
I agree with
so
that.
what are they on about?
Pardon?
I think so. What I think the way that they do it is to become registered organic. You have to go through an awful lot of hoops and stuff like that. So it costs a bit more to be able to put, not to
Yes.
actually produce it per se, but it
That's it.
costs to get the certificate to say that it's organic, because you've got to go through so many hoops and say that you're
Mhm.
not using pesticides and all the
I'm not
fertilizers and stuff like
sure.
that.
I'm not sure what England's requirements are, but I know in British Columbia, I think it takes about 3 or 4 years um, to become a certified farmer. Only because of the soil, they have to ensure it's not being, it takes that amount of time to actually ensure that the soil is free of any type of
Yeah,
pesticide, herbicides, all that stuff. So it is
yeah.
a
Uh,
process, yeah.
and I think we've also benefited from leaving the EU. We don't come under their bizarre
Oh,
regulations when it comes
right.
to the farming side of it.
Mhm,
We've got rid of the common agricultural policy that
mhm,
is ludicrous. Basically, they
mhm.
pay farmers not to farm.
Oh,
That's the
that's
EU. They pay farmers not to farm.
no, so
Do you see
that
any sense in that?
no,
Because
because
they're
farmers
protecting
are,
other markets. That's what that's all about. So we've
yeah,
now
I
got
mean,
rid of that.
that's first of all unfair.
Yeah,
Sorry. And second of all, your local farmers are the backbone of the food chain
absolutely.
for your country. And they are, if you look at it in a way of the economy, they build your economy. They are your economy, right?
Yeah,
Just like small
absolutely.
business is the economy. They are the backbone of the economy. So why, you know, it's being done that way? Will we ever find out? I don't think so, right?
Well,
You won't find
we
out
know
why.
why it was done. Is to protect the French mainly,
Mm,
but because they're all small farmers and they're paying them subsidies to grow
mm,
stuff, and they're paying
mm.
our farmers not to grow stuff so they can sell their produce. It's, I mean, it's a
Wow.
crazy system. That common agricultural policy that the EU came out with was madness. But there you
Hmm.
go. That's the EU for you. I mean, they come out with so much rubbish, and there's so
Hmm.
many countries that just ignore what they're coming out with, and the UK was one of the only countries that did everything by the letter,
mm,
and
mhm.
I think
Yeah.
52% of the country saw through it and voted to leave, which they didn't expect at all.
Yeah. Jeez.
But I think from the perspective of now we've actually left, we are starting to see the benefits of leaving the
Good.
EU.
That's good.
We just need to leave a few other bits of it because we still come under their. I mean, say the Northern Ireland protocol that needs to go because that's disadvantaging Northern Ireland. We need
Mhm,
to invoke Article 16,
mm,
and we need to pull the pin out and go full WTO with the EU because they're just taking liberties with our good nature, and we're
mm,
still paying them an awful lot of money. And the
mm,
other thing that we need to get out of is the European Convention on Human Rights. That needs
mm,
to go because that's just crippling us with
mhm.
illegal migration. So if we get rid of that,
Wow.
we can have our own human rights, which generally are better than the ECHR, and we'll be able
One
to
of the
get rid
things
of the illegals.
I know a lot of, and actually a lot of my clients were from England and Ireland and British Columbia. I mean, obviously British Columbia.
Yeah,
Um,
you lucky
so
people.
uh, one of the things that I love about that area of the world, England, is that you're very outspoken. Um,
No, we're reserved.
yeah,
We're a very reserved nation, us, you know.
you're reserved, but when things need to be brought to light,
Yeah,
you guys obviously stand up, and that needs to be done. And I'm not saying this in a way that people go out and demolish or cause crime or anything like that. Um, it's over the years in my industry, I need to stay on top of what's going on in terms of nutrition and fitness, because then I'm better able to teach my clients. Uh, so over the years, because the way that the industry has grown, there's that element of politics that has entered it,
yeah,
and it's dealing with the politics of it. Sometimes you wonder, well, I just want the general public, in reality, they just want to get up and go to work, pay their
yeah,
bills, uh,
and live their life
provide
without
for their
being dictated
children,
to. Yeah,
right? They want to provide for their children.
yeah,
And this element that's come in, and you just go, what's going on, right? And so you have people that are, and I have a lot of friends in British Columbia. So they're upset. Some people cry, call me, they're crying. What do I do? And I tell them, just maintain a healthy mindset. You know, Tim, I've been motivating people for 39 years. I've stood in front of 50 participants. I would turn on my music and people were at like all time motivation that
mm.
over the years has only it's only been declining. And I can honestly say the reason why it's been declining is that political element has come in, causing
The
these
old
strict,
people, eh?
I have to say this, because, to me, Canada is an amazing country. We're part of we're tied in together, Tim.
Yeah,
Let's face reality.
on the
Canada's
same head of
part
state.
of, the EU, right?
You are
Or not
so
EU. So
lucky. You are so lucky to have the Queen as the head of your state. I mean,
yeah.
just look at America. Let's just take America for half a
Oh
second.
no. I live
You
here
could
now. I
go
would
down that road. You could have President Biden. Wow. Or
no.
President
Hey,
Trudeau.
I want to say something. I did see Queen Elizabeth. She had I forget which year. I think it was Canada's birthday, maybe before or after that
Yeah.
one year. But she had visited Canada, and she was actually, on the whatever it was she was on, and she was actually driving through down Wellington Street. It was packed, and I had seen her, and it was an honor to see her. Yes, we are
It
lucky
is awesome.
because to be plugged in with the royalty. It is. It has Canada is a different country altogether, right?
Mm.
Um, so we have that. We're plugged in that way.
Yeah.
This
Oh, it's
Canadian
gonna be
and
it's
English.
gonna be a massive, massive loss to the world when she does go.
Yeah, yeah.
She's been such a role model for billions of people across the Commonwealth. It's gonna be a real,
Absolutely,
real sad day. But there you go. I mean,
absolutely.
she's got the same ticket as the rest of us. We're all gonna all gonna go one
You
day.
know, my dad used to say it all the time. Bless his soul, he's crossed over, and he would always say, what we have here doesn't mean anything when it's time to go. It's time to
That's
go.
it.
We're all going. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Nobody's immune from that. So
Some
uh,
of us have been
that's
around a
why
lot
I
longer
chose
than
my
others, you know.
career. Pardon?
So some of us have been around a lot longer than others. I,
Well, this is
I
why I teach, right?
yeah.
Hey,
See, I
enjoy
was,
life.
I,
Enjoy life. Yes, the
oh,
world is going through this process right now, but you know what? Enjoy what you have. Um, it's different. Um, have gratitude. Give gratitude. Say thank you every day for what you do have, and have the
absolutely.
faith to believe, however you define faith, right?
Mm,
Uh, have faith and believe that humanity, if we look back in the history of humanity and what we've gone through in terms of disease like polio, all the Spanish flu, and what
yeah.
else? What else did we go through?
COVID,
Chickenpox, mumps, right?
COVID.
Yeah, so we've managed to,
We come
migrate
through the
through
other end
all
of that and
that.
survive. So, I mean, I was born on the 5th of April, 1758. So people look at me and say, "No." I say, "Yeah, I'm 264." And they don't believe me. I said, "I know, I look after myself, but I've seen a lot in my lifetime."
Yes. And that's what makes you unique, right?
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
grandparents on both sides lived well into their 90s.
Yeah, that gives you a good chance.
Yeah. My grandfather on my father's side, every night, like clockwork, he had his mati. Do you know what mati is? It's a
Is that
it's
like
a
a whiskey, a
it's a
wee
tea.
dram?
Yeah, it's a herbal tea that he drank. It was prepared for him in a little pot with this steel straw that he had, and he
Yeah,
drank it every night. And he lived to late into the 98 or something like that. Bless his soul. So you know, if you just take those little steps, why
yeah.
not add a few more years to your lifespan?
Look
Right?
after yourself because nobody else will.
Exactly.
Look after number one first, and then you
Exactly.
can
I
take care
agree.
of other people once you're up and running.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
Well, Helena, this has been a real insight. It's been fascinating.
Oh, thank you, Tim. It's been an honor speaking with you. I'm so blessed that hey, I'm speaking to someone in England. By the way,
Masalama.
I know I'm so sorry I went off subject with the Kuwait thing, but I want to just quickly share this. When going back to Canada, I had to spend 9 hours at Heathrow Airport.
Oh, I can feel for you.
It was a pleasure being in England for 9 hours.
Shame you didn't get to look around.
Well, actually, I wanted to go look around, but the fellow that I spoke to, the border, you go through security,
Yeah,
the
immigration.
lineups. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the amount of people at Heathrow. But anyway, I asked, should I, wait? Will I be out of here in like an hour just to go out and look around? He says, oh no, it's gonna take more than that. So I just hung around the airport until my flight was ready to leave back to BC. So that's as far as I went in England. Was your airport?
Well, as you say, you've been here.
Yeah.
So, as far as I'm aware, what they say in Arabic is Masalama.
Walaikum salam. And to translate that to anybody,
Alhamdulillah.
it means may peace be upon you as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Ma salam, exactly.
Masalama.
Okay,
Alhamdulillah.
thank you.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.